Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us at our August 28th City Council meeting. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brigham.
Here.
Vice Mayor Russell.
Here.
Councilmember Walter.
Here.
Councilmember Bagby. Present. Mayor Paula.
Here. Thank you. Report out of closed session. City Manager?
Mayor, Council, there's no reportable action out of closed session this evening.
Thank you. Okay, conflict of interest declaration. Does any council member have anything to declare for tonight's meeting? No. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda review, our regular session. Any changes and or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Mayor, Council, if I
Yes.
can just note that item 3 on consent should read consideration and adoption of resolution number 058.
Okay.
057 is repeated for items 2 and 3. It's just a correction.
So item number 3 is 058 is the resolution dash 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any other changes or deletions to that?
No other changes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll go under public comment. Any person wishing to speak to the City Council on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Members of the public have the right to speak on any items on the council agenda during that item. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Each person wishing to speak must come up to the podium when advised and speak directly into the microphone. There's going to be a tablet down there if you'd sign your name, please. For the record, each person will be limited to 3 minutes and may only speak once under public comment. Would anybody like to address the City Council on any item not on the agenda? Yes, please come forward, and if you could sign the book, and then your 3 minutes does not start until you speak. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay, if you could state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Becky Ennis. I'm the executive director at the Cloverdale.
Could you
Senior
speak into
Center.
the microphone,
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry.
No,
Yes, I
that's
can.
fine, so everybody could hear you.
Totally can. So thank you, Mayor and Council. I understand I only have 3 minutes to speak, so while I cannot provide you a year's review, it's good that I've only been here for 4 months, so I got about 1 minute for every 5 weeks that I've been on the job. First, I wish I'd had more of your time this evening. Cloverdale Senior Multipurpose Center is worthy of your time, and I honestly believe you feel the same as demonstrated by Vice Mayor Russell and Council Walter's ongoing support in visiting me at the center and talking with me last week. Like I said, I've been executive director since April, and I feel like I'm quickly and genuinely immersing myself with people, and that's our business at the center, it's people. When I arrived, I found that this is a wonderful center, and it has been for many years. There are equal amounts of people who depend on the center's programming, as there are people who care for our center by giving time and resources. We have an excellent lunch hour provided by the Council on Aging and many types of classes and educational workshops. What we offer is open to all in Cloverdale, and I'd like to remind everyone here that you only need to be 21 years old to be a member to join, so you can support this local community resource long before you get your AARP card. So I'm here tonight to ask you to look into the future. I wonder what Cloverdale would look like without the senior center. Where would the car show pancake breakfast be held? What about that Christmas tea that everyone has enjoyed for many years, which we're bringing back this December? Where can Cloverdalians dispose of their e-waste responsibly or find medical adaptive equipment like walkers or wheelchairs? Who could operate the center in case of emergency as a shelter? Or where would people go to vote? Sure, the city of Cloverdale owns the building, so it would be here, but we all know that the senior center is not just 4 walls of brick and mortar. The center is people, the people of Cloverdale. And I've not been here long, but I've been long enough to tell you that I know that people in Cloverdale care passionately for this town. So I feel that it's time for the city of Cloverdale to act upon that passion and care for all who depend on and will depend on the senior center. As executive director, I've met with my peers at other centers around the county, and I'm learning how they're getting it done to be of service to their respective communities. Some of what I've learned I will share in other forums, such as the city's finance committee meeting in September. But here I will say that Cloverdale should be doing a little bit more to keep up with the Joneses. When Sonoma and Sebastopol have centers that are nonprofit organizations, both municipalities own their buildings that the centers reside in, just like here at Cloverdale, and in addition contribute $40,000 to $50,000 of operational costs to their centers. I ask myself, why not here in Cloverdale? In a city that prides itself in how it stands alone because of the kind of town it is, then I think that this kind of omission of financial support is not what Cloverdale wants to stand out on. The city has historically designated funds to bring more people to Cloverdale, and I'd like to see the city also direct funds through the senior center to the people who already live here. I look forward to working with you to solve this problem and more robustly serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know you were at the budget work session, and I think that's really a good place to have a more detailed conversation. So I know you'll be preparing for that for this coming budget year. Also, you'll be on the agenda for the finance subcommittee to bring more information. So any comments?
Yeah.
Questions?
Just one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Becky, I have to apologize. We met last week, and I'm not apologizing for meeting with you, but my task was to put you on the agenda for a short presentation this evening with the mayor's blessing, and I completely forgot to do it. But I'm looking forward to meeting with you on the 27th, September, 2 o'clock at City Hall for the Finance Police Subcommittee meeting, and possibly after that, we'll put you on the agenda for a presentation to the full City Council. So again, my apologies.
Oh, thank you for that.
Thank you for being here. Would anybody else like to address the city council on an item not on the agenda this evening? Yes, please come forward. If you could sign your name on the book there, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
It's a little taller than me.
Great. Yes.
My name is Lucille Ogden, and I live up on Chablis Way. I bought my home there about 18 years ago, moved up there permanently 3 years ago, and have loved Cloverdale for many, many years, 50 years or more. Anyway, there's the new buildings up in Cherry Creek Court, and when they built up there, those of us down below on Chablis put up with a lot of noise, a lot of cracked walls and things of that nature. However, there's a trench there also that's supposed to catch the water, and I've gone up there, I went up there today, and also looked to the back of the one house, which is like very tall. The others are pretty decently level, but mine, right behind mine, is very tall. That wall, if good rain, is going to just crumble. There's no retaining wall there, and I'm wondering, is this going to be checked out by the city before this man finishes his project? A few years ago, we did have a lot of rain. It went down the hill to my backyard. I had to put in a drainage system at $2,500, and so I'm really concerned about that hill, and today I noticed that trench. Well, in the meantime, we neighbors went and cleaned it out a couple of times, so it's like, who's responsible for that, for the city or the people that live there? And you know, what's going to be done about some kind of a wall? I don't want somebody in my bedroom, you know, a whole big house. So I would like that addressed at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask our city engineer, is that something you can have staff take a look at?
I will pass that on to the developer.
Very
It
good.
is a private drive, so it's their responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else like to address the city council on any item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. All items under consent calendar will be considered together by one action of the council, unless any council member or member of the public requests that an item be removed and considered separately. Does any council member want to remove an item? Okay, seeing none, would any member of the public like to remove an item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve this consent calendar as submitted with the correction to item number 3, which is resolution number 58, 2018.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Walters, second by Vice Mayor Russell. Any discussion by council? Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Brigham.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Russell.
Aye.
Councilmember Walter.
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby.
Aye.
Mayor Paula.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on now to subcommittee items. We have a Finance, Administration, and Police, item number 7, consider options and provide direction to staff on the special event fees for park reservations. I believe that's our finance manager or city manager. Who's going to take that? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Could you speak into that microphone?
Sure, I can. Is that
Say it.
better?
Keep it close, please. Thank you.
We have been looking at options for our park fees and how we can either adjust them, keep them the same, what's the best going forward. We started out in the Finance Subcommittee meeting and talked about what other jurisdictions were doing and other cities and how they were charging fees. When we realized that everyone had their own mechanism for charging, we realized that there wasn't going to be any uniformity in going in that direction. So then we went back to determine how much it costs to run the parks for just renting them in addition to the regular maintenance, and what income the city is currently bringing in for those. And we looked at 2 fiscal years to determine that basically the city is already subsidizing the parks rentals by between $30,000 and $40,000 every year, based on staff time and the expenses of maintaining. From that point, we decided that we wanted to come up with options, and 2 options seemed to be the most favorable with the Finance Committee, and that those 2 options were either to remove all fees except for the application fee and increase that to be $150 per rental. That would ensure that the city's at least has the insurance that is required, and it would cover the staff time, or a portion of the staff time for that. The second option was to have MOUs for each league or sporting event or going in that direction, and having specific options for what the city's obligated to do versus the league, and then determine a rate at that level individually with each league. And we decided at the last Finance Committee meeting to bring it back to the full council for discussion to determine where to go from here.
Thank you. Okay, any comments from the city manager on this? No?
Mayor, council members, if I can, I do want to elaborate a little bit. The committee, the Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee, talked about a number of options, and I think what we tried to do from staff's perspective is really boil it down to what we thought were the key essence of the direction by the subcommittee, and those are outlined in the 2 options that are presented in your agenda report. We did want to note that previously the city had entered into memorandums of understanding with some of our local nonprofit groups and sports leagues that spelled out our respective roles with respect to the use of our parks and facilities. And that's really points to what staff's recommended direction is to council, is to consider that option. We think it's important that their responsibilities as well as our responsibilities really be outlined explicitly. We understand council wants to support these groups because they do provide services to our community, and but also comes with that a responsibility, and I think it's an opportunity for us to really sit down with the groups that do provide an important service to our community, whether it's hosting and doing all the work it takes to run a sports league for our youth, or a community group that's doing a lot of important projects for our city. But comes with that also is, what are our respective roles in terms of maintaining our parks and facilities? For example, with Little League, an MOU might spell out a responsibility for maintaining the park area that they're going to use, maintaining the ball field, in exchange for us waiving fees. And so that's really kind of the purpose of an MOU, and it's a fresh opportunity for us to sit down, really collaborate and coordinate with our groups that are, again, providing a really important service. And it's in exchange for not charging any fees, it's alleviating the staff's requirements to go out and do some of the cleanup and the maintenance that are otherwise required for some of the activities that occur. And so that really kind of points to the direction that staff's recommending. It will require a little bit of staff work and time to meet with those groups, but we think it's a good opportunity. We haven't done it for a while, to invite them in, sit down, and really work together and be on the same page to come up with a very simple MOU that says, here's your roles and responsibilities, and here's the city's roles and responsibilities. And in exchange for that, we won't impose any park fees, it would outline the services that they ultimately would be providing to our community. Because I think it's important to note for our community that we don't have the city does not have a Parks and Recreation department. And so, we really do rely on our local nonprofit organizations to provide some of those services for our community. And likewise, we have a very proud community that provide with nonprofit groups that are really willing to roll up their sleeves and donate their time and energy. And we want to recognize this in this effort. We understand that the council might say, gosh, it might be easier to waive all fees. But even though we don't collect a lot of revenue, that revenue does offset costs that we incur. And I know our park maintenance staff really have a lot of pride in the parks, and every little bit of money that they collect, helps cover some of the costs that they incur, maintaining irrigation lines, getting the fields maintained. For the water, we now have to pay ourselves in terms of our enterprise funds for our water use. So there are a lot of expenses that we incur, and so keeping kind of the application system, the fee system for like general use, it seems like it makes sense. But recognizing again through the MOU process, we can work out with our local nonprofits a mechanism to reduce their fees and spell out our individual responsibilities.
Excellent, thank you. Any comments from council?
I'm going to wait until after public comment.
Okay. Any comments?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Vice
Mayor. I'm glad we're discussing this for a number of reasons. I looked at some of the websites years ago from other cities, including those outside of Sonoma County, and different communities, even across America. Just took a quick look, thanks to all the information online. I realized that we really do need, and I'm so glad we're finally addressing it, we need to address this on a lot of levels. We should provide the kind of information you're talking about, and the kind that's in this report, to everyone in the public, because we also want to invite people to use the parks more for positive, and I think particularly for youth activities. We can't supplement, unfortunately. We can't continue to have a budget problem, and I worry about what can happen in the future if there is a future recession, if there are problems. So I really am interested in hearing from the organizations that use the park now what works and what doesn't work. And I'm really glad, again, that we're opening this up to everybody. And if you want to look at a really cool website, I'm not kidding, my favorite among the websites is, believe it or not, a place called the City of St. Charles in Missouri. They have a really cool website for folks dealing with their park system, and there are a number of them also. There are some good websites in Sonoma County and in the Bay Area in general, but I'd like us to take a look at some of them that are inviting and a little bit more in detail, so they explain what's going on, and also they encourage people, as I say, to use the park in ways that benefit the community as well as the organizations and the groups the organizations are focusing on. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open this up for the public. Would anybody in public like to address the city council on this item? Seeing no one rise, I'll close the public input and bring it back to city council. Councilmember Walter, you have comments?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I like option number 2. I'd like to take a look at the MOU. I know not as much as I used to, but I used to use the 2nd Street City Park quite a bit. And I could tell you on a Monday morning, that place was just destroyed. Hector and his crew, Murray, when he was with us, would have to spend a couple hours there emptying trash cans and just picking trash up. So I think it's really, and now again, that's mostly used by individuals. The sports leagues, I've seen the same thing. The soccer field behind Washington School, if you go there and look sometimes, I've seen the soccer games over, trash all over the field, and everybody just leave. So I think it's really incumbent on us to make sure that we stress clean up after yourself. But I like item number 2. I could support that. I'd just like to, I wish we had enough money that we could just waive it for everyone. But, we heard the senior center here a little while ago. Just trying to find money for everybody is so difficult. And I think we need to maintain a little revenue coming in to help offset our expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council member? Please. Councilmember Bagby.
Yeah, actually, I think Vice Mayor Russell brings up a very important point. If we don't have a list of amenities and how you access them, we're going to have fewer people use the park. So I some outward marketing as to what is available and how you get to use those facilities. The more people we have using the facilities, the better. And I have to say, I am leaning toward option 2 as well. And I just wanted to thank staff because the table and the information is exactly what I asked for, which is what's the state of the state? What are other people doing? What have we done in the past? What's not working? So thanks for really laying that out in the package. And then just having reviewed it, I am leaning toward option 2.
Thank you. Any other council members?
I've got a comment or two.
Please.
One of the biggest things I want to see sort of fixed is our arbitrary waiving of fees. In that I get complaints from the public, like one group will get their fees completely waived if they're the special, I shouldn't say if they're, no, I won't use that word. I think fairness across the board. It's like there were a couple religious groups that got to waive fees for weeks of using the park. Others didn't. And it caused the general public to send me a lot of kind of nasty emails. So I think the biggest thing is we've got to remain fair across the board for everybody. We don't waive for this group and not the other group. It's got to be fair.
Well, thank you. I also feel strongly that our nonprofit youth groups that are in Cloverdale, these groups go out and have to do fundraisers to raise funding to buy the uniforms and support the program. And it just doesn't feel right when they also have to write the city a check to pay for the use of the park, because most cities do have park and rec programs that do provide youth programs. We don't, we depend on that. So I think having the MOU, and that also goes with our service clubs who, the Lions Club just recently rebuilt the bus stop up on Hot Springs Road, Cherry Creek Road at Foothill. And yet, when they want to do a fundraiser to raise money to do these projects, we charge them to use the park. That just doesn't feel right. So I like the MOU. I think that makes all the sense in the world, because the key component is a value back to the community. And that's the key, the ingredient to get back to, as Councilmember Brigham said, it's got to be fair, but these groups have to really, the reason we're prepared to, in the MOU, have it a win-win for them and the city, is that they're providing a valuable service for the residents and the community, and that's a key component. So I certainly support option 2. Okay, any other comments on that? So I think at this point, you have consensus on option 2, and so I'm not sure, does that need to come back? You'll start working to put together an MOU that I know Councilmember Walter would like to look at that, so maybe we can assign this to a subcommittee
It's been in
to,
the finance subcommittee meeting.
so can we keep it there, and the consensus is to move forward with an MOU process, and keep it there, and if you could just report out when it's done, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Does that sound good?
Mayor, council members, we understand your direction, your consensus around option 2. Staff will work with the sports leagues and the nonprofit groups, like the Lions group, like the Lions Club, to reformulate those MOUs, bring that back to the Finance, Admin, and Police Committee for review and recommendation, ultimately back to council.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 8, which is under the Public Works Subcommittee. Consider options and provide direction to staff to resolve parking-related congestion on Elbridge Avenue. City Engineer.
Yes, this item was brought to us before the subcommittee back earlier this year, and essentially it is, after some research, we found that Elbridge Avenue does conform to city standards. It is a minor hillside street, but when cars park on both sides, it restricts traffic, it slows it down, which is a good thing. But again, I've kind of laid out what are the options here. PD has found no issues related to that street, nor accidents. And again, this is more of an item that we can either do a traffic study to confirm that it warrants a 2-lane dedicated, or we can just forego that and look at my options here.
Thank you. Any questions from council before we open it up?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I drive by occasionally to check that out, particularly since it was discussed at our subcommittee meeting. And I noticed on Saturday that, I think it was the part referred to as the dog leg, was particularly choked because there was parking on both sides. And I've got to tell you, 2 cars coming and going, very difficult to do. I am concerned, and I wanted your opinion on this. I think I may have mentioned it. I don't remember if we discussed this during the subcommittee discussion. As Treadway becomes more and more popular and there are more and more cars, those of us who live, for example, in the cottages, particularly in the middle and the northern end of the cottages, are probably going to use Eldridge as opposed to Treadway. We'll just go up an extra block or so past Ferber Plaza and make our left there, and it'll get you home faster without a whole lot of extra traffic and concerns about people pulling out in the wrong direction to get a discount at the grocery store. Not that I would ever do that myself, but I've heard that people do. And I am concerned that Elbridge will become even more choked. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't designed for a major amount of traffic. It was just a minor street. And
Just for
so
regular
we're kind of stuck with it right now. Other than, there's plenty of right-of-way, but both sides have landscape meandering sidewalks, and I don't think we'd want to eliminate those to accommodate more traffic lanes per se. If we eliminate traffic, let's say on the north end, and put, no parking along there, that's probably the cheapest solution. However, you're also introducing, a fast lane for people to, accelerate through that area. And it's a park, it's an inconvenience for the people who live at, was it Clover Meadows? There's, 90 apartments there, condominiums. And so basically you're just going to inconvenience them for through traffic.
Yes. Yeah, you made a good point. The review made a good point of the fact that very few apartments these days have only one vehicle per apartment.
Indeed, especially now that people are, adults are doubling up on apartments simply because of the lack of housing in the area.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
wondering
each
if
of
there's...
those apartments have 2 spaces, though, allotted, not 1.
Yeah,
2.2.
Yeah,
right?
it's estimated.
but there's
at
still a
2.2.
spillover.
Okay.
Anyway, okay,
Right.
good.
Any other, before I'm going to open it up?
I'll wait.
You want to
Yeah.
open it up? So, I'd like to open this up for public input. Would anybody like to address the city council on this item? This would be the time to do so.
Just need
Mr. Cox, please come on down,
no, I don't want that.
sign the book.
So it's from all the way up.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, I'm the one that brought this before the subcommittee, and I drive that street 6 or 8 times a day, every day. And the issue is not for the complete length of the street from Foothill to the boulevard. It is basically in that dogleg section, and that's about 75 yards. When cars are coming, one coming down, one going up, somebody has to pull to the side and stop and allow the other one. It is not a two-way street with cars on both sides of the street. And generally, on the north side of Elbridge, there may be, at best, 4 cars parked on that side, where most are parked on the apartment side or the south side of the street. And I believe, and knowing most of the cars that do park on the north side, they are residents of the apartments across the street. If you took about that 75 yards and made that no parking, I think it would alleviate the problem that exists. And it's not going to create a raceway at all. It'll just allow 2 cars to pass going up that street or coming down that street. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to address the city council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment, bring it back to city council. Councilmember Walter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we're talking on the north side, correct?
That'd be a logical place for it.
Right,
yes.
okay. This is just indicative of a problem that we have throughout the city, and Vice Mayor Russell, I know you're always talking about it. There's just not enough parking when we build the apartments. Vintage Meadows has 2 spaces, one covered and one uncovered for each resident, and they have a few guest parking spaces as well. The problem is they don't allow certain vehicles. They don't allow motorcycles to park there. If you've got a truck with a camper, you can't park there on their property. So folks are forced to go out into the street. But stepping back for a second and addressing the parking problem, look at our Ioli Ranch. I mean, they're parking, those folks park on the street, they park over in the Ace Hardware parking lot.
They don't have enough parking.
Look at Citrus Garden, Cloverdale Boulevard on a Sunday morning, you drive there early in the morning and it's just lined with cars on both sides. And I think the city really has to step back and take a look at the building code and the parking requirements that we put on folks that want to come and develop projects here in the city. And I know a lot of them are already pre-mandated by the state, what we can and can't do. But I really think we need to be conscious of that. But I will support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have a few.
Yeah, I'm just going to say thank you to Councilmember Walter. I'm leaving office in December, but I'm still going to be waving flags for a formal parking plan for Cloverdale. We're doing very well in many, many ways. And fortunately, we're bringing wonderful people into our city, both to live here and to do business here and to have a lot of good times here and shop. But we've got to take a look at parking because, whoops. See, there we have a car crash right there. But seriously, I worry about it. It not only is it an inconvenience problem, I'm concerned about it from a safety problem, obviously. And that's my big concern with that little tiny stretch called the dogleg of Eldridge. I go up and down that too from time to time, and it worries me. And we do, I think, need to do something about the parking on one side of it and eliminate it. That will at least get rid of the dogleg. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I support option 2. I drive that probably 5, 6 times a day at the minimum. First of all, I don't think we need a traffic engineer study for something that's pretty obvious to me, just living in that neighborhood. I think I've seen where both sides of the streets were large vehicles parked on both sides, and you really do have to pull only one car can go by, but the problem escalates when there's no place for one of the 2 cars to pull over, and it's really bad. And I've seen there's a lot of children that live in that area, and they go out between parked cars crossing that street that's narrow, and it's just very difficult to maneuver that, and it's getting worse. So I really think something needs to be done sooner than later. I clearly support the option 2, that we restrict the parking, and I certainly would support it on the north side to hopefully prevent people from having to cross the street, from the apartments. So,
Can I get some clarification?
yes.
Bob Cox mentioned 75 yards. I'm presenting here the full length. What is your preference?
From my standpoint, I think we could start at the 75 yards and see if that resolves the problem. I mean, I'm not trying to eliminate a lot of needed parking, but that dog leg is really bad. So I think
Basically from the Adventist Church to Marguerite Lane?
that would probably be a good start, and then we can evaluate it for a year or so and see. And,
Yeah, I could,
That section.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I think rather than doing the whole length of the street, the shorter would be better, because as you get closer to Foothill Boulevard, we have the park
yeah.
on the side, and I know there's only about a couple parking spots on Elbridge for the park. So I'm sure people are going to spill over onto the street there. And down by the church, it's more or less a straight run. So I would support that 75 yards from there,
Okay.
or up to Marguerite.
Is that agreeable?
That's fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so we have a consensus on that.
Mayor,
do you
council
need-
member, if I can, just to note that I think that your city engineer has indicated that the curb would be painted red to restrict the parking. Council may want to consider, if you're thinking that maybe it's more of a pilot project to see how it works, that we use no parking signage and have it be demarcated as no parking between signs. That way, it could function more as a, if council so chooses in the future, you remove the signage, it's a lot easier than removing red painted curb.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
see.
good idea.
I don't see reducing the size. If anything, it would expand it if it didn't resolve the problem.
Right, and that's what,
So-
I think as staff, we're just suggesting you may want to, instead of painting the curb red, we may want to just use signage at this point for the identified area that you're asking to be restricted.
They're both enforceable, so whatever's best for staff.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but I think the red paint would be better. I know I don't read signs. I mean, of course, but I look at curb colors, and there's a lot of people like that. And I'd hate to see us all of a sudden start issuing tickets to folks. And I'm hoping we just put a little warning on the windshield first, Chief, as opposed to writing out a ticket. But I'd prefer to see the red curb. So,
Yeah,
but that's one opinion.
Fine with that.
Excuse me, I would agree with that, Mr. Mayor. That's just easier for everybody, including people who don't live here, or visiting, whatever. If you know what red means.
Okay, red. Okay, so are you going to bring back a resolution to designate that a non-parking area? Is that
I don't
typically
think
done?
any
Okay.
resolution is necessary.
So, do you need a motion to move forward on that?
We would recommend a motion for council.
So can we get a motion to move forward with the red paint from Marguerite to the
So
boulevard?
moved, Mr. Mayor. So
Vice
moved.
Mayor Russell introduced that.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Walter. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Brigham,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Russell,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby. Aye. Mayor Paula.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, City Engineer. Thank you for all that. Okay, we'll move on to subcommittee reports. The first report's the airport. We have Chair Councilmember Bagby.
Our next meeting is October 2nd.
Great, thank you. Finance, Administration, and Police, Chair Councilmember Brigham.
We did have a meeting on the 23rd. One of the first items was the History Center presentation by Marge Gray. They've got a storage issue over there, and the city has got a storage issue about where to put a lot of documents. So their idea is to enclose the back carport. I mean, I could walk you out there if you guys want to look at it, but it looks sensible to me. They're going to want to enclose that disabled parking spot, and nobody even knows it's there. Nobody uses it. Nobody goes in there at all. So their idea is to enclose that, and they then will take the storage responsibility over for a lot of the minutes from, I mean, the really old minutes. And so what was suggested was that we share the cost of enclosing it and them taking them and storing them. The suggestion was made of $10,000 to the History Center, and that probably isn't even going to cover the lumber costs, but it would be, I think, a show of good faith from the city that, yes, we appreciate you taking all those documents and holding them there. They aren't going to take, they don't have the room even then to take everything that's out at the courtyard, all those copious amounts of documents that are out there, but they will take the ones from City Hall and store them over there. It was sensible, it made sense to me. So we should, I told Marge and the group that we would discuss it, and so I think it should go on the agenda for approval or not. Any questions on that one?
So I just have one question. Would that be like now, or is that for a budget item for next fiscal year to plan?
No, they would like to start.
Start it immediately?
Yeah, they would like to have it done before the rain, supposedly. So, but I don't know that it's earth-shattering. But I do think it would require us to go back and look at the budget.
Certainly. Okay.
There would have to be a budget amendment for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'd have to make sure we have the money. That helps.
Mayor, Councilmember, if I can, just to add to Councilmember Brigham's comments. Staff did recommend that the History Center do a little more homework with respect to identifying or preparation of preliminary construction plans and identifying the costs for the proposed work, because there are some additional costs associated with doing plan check and plan review, and that might be part of the consideration, once we know the valuation of the project that we'd want to look at as part of, council's overall consideration on how to provide some funding support for this. And also as they do a little more work on the plans, they may want to do some value engineering to really bring the project in line with something that can afford, and then that really identifies how we're going to expend taxpayer dollars towards this project. So the ask was that they do a little bit more work. We button up the numbers, kind of get the plans in shape, and then we bring it back for council's consideration along with a budget adjustment.
Great. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Any other questions on that?
No, thank you.
Let's see, obviously the proposed solid waste rate adjustment, which they do every year, so that was no surprise. And then the ad valorem tax, but that was it, and we covered that in the meeting tonight. So that's all I have to report.
Great.
And the next meeting will be September the 27th at 2 o'clock.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, move on to Planning Community Development. The chair is Councilmember Bagby.
Mr. Mayor, we met on August 21st. We had Six Acres Water Company and South Cloverdale Water Company representatives discussing their state and progress as far as the SB 1A grants. And I believe City Manager Kelly is going to be preparing a report to bring to council on those issues.
Great.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
On an undisclosed date.
Thank you. And if you could speak into the mic, the people in the back cannot hear you. Okay, Public Works, our chair is Vice Mayor Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next meeting is September 25th at 10:30 a.m. City
Okay.
Hall.
Thank you. And the Joint City Fire District, that's I'm the chair of that, and our next meeting is to be determined. So we don't have a meeting date set. So we need to work on getting a date set, if we could. And our Joint City School District, the next meeting is September 17th. It's at 5 o'clock in the City Council, or in the City Hall Conference Room. Okay? So we'll move on to City Council reports. Anybody have anything? They're in the packet or up on the dais here. Does anybody have anything they want to add? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, Mr. Mayor, there's a lot of good news in the report, but on the 22nd of August, I had the occasion, as I do regularly when they meet, as a City Council liaison, I attended the Cloverdale Library Advisory Board, group of volunteers who worked very hard. And I have to tell you, I was quite impressed by the summer reading program statistics. I provide them here for my fellow council members, but I thought it might be interest to everyone here tonight and watching on YouTube. Totals by category were, in terms of the number of attendance for each of these things, preschool was 61 people, school age 426. Pretty nice, huh? Teen, 142. Trying to get over 100 teenagers in any one place that doesn't have to do with music and, other things, I think is quite an accomplishment. At least it would have been when I was a teenager back in the day. And adults, 114. I thought that was excellent. So when I added it all up, I said 743 participants. Not bad. So I want to thank everybody who contributed to that. I think it was a real success. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you. Okay, anything else from council? All right, we'll move on to City Manager report.
Mayor, council members, there's two items I wanted to share with the council. First of which is the mayor in his report identified that the mayor, myself, as well as Chief Stewart met with Superintendent Decker and the principal of Cloverdale High School to talk about a grant opportunity through the Department of Justice. It's a tobacco education grant. It's something we're going to be tracking closely. It's an opportunity to obtain funding for additional staffing to support the school resource officer program, particularly geared towards tobacco education at Cloverdale High School. And we'll track that announcement closely in coordination with the school district. The school has reported that they have a grant writer that is going to be preparing a grant for, through the superintendent of schools, and we're going to see what opportunities there are to collaborate with the high school on a joint grant application. As we currently understand, the city would have to take the lead on that, on submittal of the application, but if they're willing to take the lead on preparation of the grant, we'll work with them as well as the police department to see what opportunities there are to fund a school resource officer. So I just wanted to report on that. One other item I wanted to share with the council is an important announcement that's coming out of Sonoma County Emergency Services. On September 10th, Sonoma County Emergency Management is going to be testing their countywide SoCo Alert program. It's part of an on-call exercise. It's an opportunity to see how well this alert system works for Sonoma County as a whole. Again, SoCo Alert is an alert system that's intended to identify if there's any major or significant emergency incidences within the county. And so they're going to do an actual first-time physical test to see how it works. It's important to kind of get the word out on that because folks are going to receive alerts on their phones or they're on their landlines identifying that it is a test. And I know sometimes when you receive those tests, it can be alarming. So just want to let the council know, and we'll post information up on our website as we get more information. They will also be testing their wireless emergency system. What the indication is that so far is that the test of that particular, they call it the WE system, it will not include the city of Cloverdale. It's going to include select communities. So they're going to attempt to do the notification to select geographic communities to see how that system works. This is part of the ongoing effort through the Sonoma County Office of Emergency Services to kind of, do more testing and outreach on the security alerts, because obviously that was a big concern as part of the October fire system. So more information will be shared on the city's website, Facebook page, and social media, and we'll also be providing more information to council on this.
Thank you. I just want to expand a little bit on the grant possibility. The school district is, like the city manager reported, taking the lead on it, but it is really got to be submitted through the city because it's really for an enforcement type of a position through the police department. And the potential's really good that we will get some funding out of that. And it's a 2-year program, possibly could be renewed, so it would actually be for 2 years. It's not just a 1 year. And there's really, at this point, from what we know, there's no match required on either side. So this could potentially fund a full-time position that's dedicated to the schools, dealing with primarily, it's a tobacco prevention, but they'll be doing a whole lot more than just that. And that would just be one of the key components. But the school district's excited because it's a win-win. As you know, we share that cost currently with the city picking up 50% and the school district picking up 50%. We haven't been able to fill that position for a variety of reasons over the last year or so since Officer Mac Baker retired. So this is pretty exciting. So the reason we wanted to make sure you were aware of it, because we will have to come back to council for a resolution of support once that grant gets written to show that we are in fact behind it, and the school district will have to do the same. Petaluma funded 2 full-time police officers dedicated to their schools through this program.
That's great.
So, yeah, for 2 years. So it's really good. Okay, so council direction on future agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, please.
Yes.
And for staff, I was under the impression that the cannabis ordinance was coming back the 1st of September so that we could redo that ordinance and get moving with Prop 64.
So before staff jumps in, we talked about that during the budget, the agenda preparation, and the staff still in the process of preparing the way we're going to unfold that and lay it out, and they're not quite there yet, and we're working on that. The objective would maybe to bring it back in the last meeting in September, and I think we're on track for that, but if not, it would be the first meeting of October, but it will be coming back shortly.
Okay. I just think, Mr. Mayor, and my feelings are that for us to lose 2 seasoned council members who are well-versed on the topic, I think we have to do it before the end of the year. And so hopefully we can get that done.
Okay, thank you. Any other council for future agenda items? Okay, seeing none, I would like to go ahead and thank staff and thank everybody for being here. And we will adjourn our meeting until our next regular meeting, which will be September 11th, with closed session tentatively scheduled to start at 5 o'clock. And public session will be here at the Performing Arts at 6 o'clock. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.